This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast revisiting television sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Bionic Woman, episodes 1 and 2.
Okay, Jamie, I need to tell you something.
What's happening to me?
I need to tell you about what I do, and you need to listen to me. Listen to me, Jamie. Both your legs and your arm had to be replaced. Also, your right ear and right eye. Molecular machines, anthracites, have been substituted for 1/8 of your blood cells.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast with completely bionic limbs. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
Hold on, the podcast has bionic limbs, or we have bionic limbs?
No, the podcast. I installed them next to the warp drive.
Oh, good. Fine. You know what? I didn't want to mention anything, but they were in need of an update.
They're just kicking around, little limbs reaching out to grab you.
Yeah, nice.
No head.
Well, the character in this only gets one eyeball, which I always think is weird.
That's all you need. Just one eyeball.
He's got to squint. Close the other eye.
All right. Well, this week, as you probably sorted out already, we're watching a new series. It's the 2007 remake of The Bionic Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, do you know anything about this series? Did you watch it at all?
I only know a little bit of it, which is I watched a pilot of this back in the day, and it was the other pilot, which we could talk about later. So I had a passing familiarity because this is, I would say, about 60% of what I saw.
Interesting. I remember it coming out, but I definitely didn't watch it. What I remember is they were really pushing this on people as from the creators of Battlestar Galactica.
This does seem to hit a very particular time in science fiction, and we've sort of seen a few things that are in this time period, but it's weird how you can see the style of the show and the tone of the show. You can place it exactly where it happens historically.
Can you tell me, and I was trying to remember this, and I didn't look it up, but is Bionic Woman like a sequel or a spin-off of $1 Million Man?
Yeah, the $6 Million Man.
$6 Million Man? Okay, so those are in the same universe, so theoretically...
She started out as a character in that show and then got her own spin-off show.
Oh, so do you think eventually there would have been a $6 Million Man on this show?
I think they were hoping this would go long enough that both Lee Majors and whatever the other lady was, they would probably make, hilarious cameos.
Oh, that was 100% in the works, for sure.
But from what I saw, neither of those people, the Bionic Woman or $6 Million Man, neither of them had positive things to say about this.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, because it's not very good.
Well, this aired on NBC from September 26th to November 28th, 2007.
Mm-hmm. Short run.
And Jordan, here's what was happening in the world around Bionic Woman.
That's good.
Here's what I got for you. September 22nd, 2007, French mime Marcel Marceau dies.
Aww. Very quietly, I assume.
I don't know why that's so funny.
He just didn't make a whole big thing about it,
September 23rd, 2007, The Big Bang Theory premieres.
Wow, what year was that? 2007?
Yeah.
Holy moly, that show was on forever, huh?
Guess how many seasons that show has?
I'm going to guess about 12.
Dead on the money.
Yeah, that's a lot of seasons. I mean, MASH only did 11 seasons. And if you're going to compare, MASH is a much better show.
November 10th, 2007, Norman Mailer dies.
Oh, okay.
And November 30th, 2007, Evel Knievel dies.
I don't know why I laughed at Evel Knievel dying, but I think he also died.
It's because you pictured him doing a motorcycle stunt as he died.
There's no way that's how he died. He died, I'm sure, quietly in his bed, much like Marcel Marceau.
They both had the very similar quiet death.
They both just reached over and pretended to touch hands, and then they both just quietly faded away.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they both reached over and pretended they were in an invisible box.
Oh, no, that's what he did. Evel Knievel pretended he was riding a motorbike.
All right, let's get into the pilot episode. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 1, Pilot.
Pilot. What a title.
I've really cut this down because it was like 7 paragraphs long, so Jamie Summers is a young woman and college dropout working at a San Francisco nightclub to support her rebellious 15-year-old sister, Becca, since the death of their parents. But her life changes in one night when the car Jamie is riding in with her fiancé is hit by a truck.
I mean, I think you cut that down pretty well. I'm going to say right off the bat, though, I know that there's a lot of stuff that's kind of a lot of balls that are being tossed in the air for this show. I think it's to the show's detriment. There's way too much. Like, I don't think the audience needs to know that she's a college dropout and she works at a bar and her parents died and she has a fiance and there's a secret organization and her sister has some trouble. It's just like, it's too many things, guys. Like, save it for season 2.
Jordan, her parents didn't die. Only one of them.
Only one of them? Oh, yeah, that's right, because the dad's alive. Sorry. He's dead to her emotionally.
Anyway, the episode starts 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
We get a cold open at the Wolf Creek Biotech Research Facility.
Did you think that's a dumb name? I don't know why that bothered me, but I thought it was a dumb name.
I mean, I didn't mind it. I was just like, I'm just going to call it Wolf Creek, I guess.
Yeah, Wolf Creek sounds like another pilot, like a werewolf pilot.
What I like, though, is in the next episode, we'll see a notebook, a highly classified notebook, and I'm going to just skip ahead for a second and find the name. But Wolf Creek is actually owned by a larger corporation called, here it is. It's the Burkett Group, and on the notebook it says, proud owners of the Wolf Creek Biotech facility.
Well, hey, look, they did their work. It's very detailed. We want to make sure how this organizational scheme works.
We have to know how this entire corporation that's also a clandestine organization works. At this facility, we meet Katie Sackhoff, Battlestar Galactica's Starbuck.
Yeah, she plays Sarah Corvus.
You didn't. They call her Sarah Corvus no less than 700 times in the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, but I just wrote her down as Katie Sackhoff.
Sarah Corvus, and she's some sort of original Bionic Woman, but she's gone crazy and murdered a guy.
Well, no, she's not some sort of original. She literally has to say at one point later, I'm the original Bionic Woman. Then she gives a little head tilt, and you're like, ooh, edgy.
But yes, 3 years ago, she's murdered a man at this biotech research place. A armed security unit is coming in to stop her, led by Jay Kim, who I guess is the Wolf Creek Bionic Woman trainer / also Sarah Corvus's boyfriend, we'll come to learn.
It's to create this like emotional beat of he doesn't want to attack her, but it's like, we've just met you literally 5 seconds ago. I could care less. Yeah,
she's standing over all this blood and gore, and she claims she's sorry for murdering this person, and which will become a running theme for her character, which I really don't like. She constantly is asking people if they love her, and she asks him now, like,
that's true.
Do you love me, in a really like manic way? And then goes to attack the SWAT team, and Jay is forced to shoot her in the head, and we're kind of left with this cold open of like, what's going on at Wolf Creek?
That's a better title. That's what the show title should be. What's going on in Wolf Creek?
And we jump forward in time to this 3 years later, where we finally meet the lead of the show, Jamie Summers.
Do we start at the house, or is it her slinging drinks?
I think we see her slinging drinks for a hot second. Then we like hop over to her apartment, where we kind of learn she's the older sister who's taking care of her teenage sister, Becca, and her mom's dead, and they don't like her dad. And
the sister's some sort of scamp who, I don't know, has had some sort of problem in the past.
They imply she's some sort of hacker because she's not allowed to use computers anymore. Mm-hmm. But they don't. After they say that, there's no evidence of anything along those lines, like she's some sort of computer. I'm sure it's going to come up later, but for the next 2 episodes, she's just like a rebellious teen. Like, it almost feels like they decided to write that hacker subplot out.
Did I ever tell you, by the way, I had that happen to a friend in high school, that he was hacking stuff, and he went to court, and he wasn't allowed on the computer. It was a whole thing.
That's very funny. What did he hack?
Yeah. He was... I think it's not that funny. I think that it was a bit of a fraud thing. They were taking credit cards and stuff. But fun thing, he now works as a security advisor for an internet company.
Oh yeah, that's the career trajectory. You do something very criminal as a teenager, and you end up in a very high paying security job afterward.
Yeah, it happened like right away, and I was like, no. So I guess he learned his lesson.
No, there's no lesson to be there. I listen to a lot of podcasts about like the internet and hackers and stuff, and that happens all the time.
Anyway, so he's doing well.
There you have it, kids. Go break the law. You'll be rich.
Yeah. But you are right, though, that this character, they sort of imply that she's some sort of computer wizard, but then it's like, don't worry about it, because she's going to do some, like, hoedown later.
And we also kind of immediately jump to the fact we see Jamie heading to a college, which I thought she attended this college, but next episode they're going to say she's a college dropout from Harvard, I guess?
I thought the same thing. I thought it was just like, oh, she has too many things in life to juggle, so she's showing up late for class, but all she's doing is visiting her boyfriend, who's a professor.
Professor Will Anthros.
And what did you think of this character? Do you think this character is going to make it to episode 2?
I mean, I hated this character. When we meet him, he's teaching bioethics to this class, and like part of his slideshow is he's showing people with like biological, like an amputated leg, and they get a fake leg, and then he cuts, and then he pushes the next photo, and he's just showing like a woman's breasts. He's like, she got breast implants. Isn't that hilarious, class?
I couldn't tell what the tone they were going for was there, but yeah, it's like he teaches some class and he's, I don't know, the most uninteresting person you could spend time with.
Well, and what I love too is he's teaching like a bioethics class, and over the course of this episode, you've never met a less ethical human being.
True, good point.
And like I thought that originally when I thought he was dating one of his students, because you don't even know he's not until you find out in the next episode she's a college dropout. That's the only indication he's not dating a student.
Yeah. So you think that she was one of his students, started dating, she had to drop out, and he's like, but this relationship's keep going.
No, I don't think that's what they're going for. But like basically every other action he takes for the next like for the rest of the like hour is like the most unethical action every human being could take. He's a terrible person.
Yeah, but spoiler, don't worry, he won't be in this too long.
They head out to dinner after class, and they just keep laying on. Like, this is happening. We just talked about, like, bar, sister, dating this professor. This all happens in, like, 5 minutes. They're at dinner suddenly, and he's just like, I love you so much. It was love at first sight when I met you. Let's move to Paris together. And then she blurts out, oh, guess what? I'm pregnant with your kid. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
I know, it's too much. But it did have a line that made me laugh. Before she said that, they literally have a line where she goes, I'm a bartender and you're a professor. How can this work out? And I was like, guys, this is so bad. And then he's like, no, I love you. And she's like, but I'm also having a baby. And he's like, that's great. Perfect. They're throwing so much stuff at you. And I don't know what it is. Like, there's this fear that you're going to change the channel if there's not like 1,000% stimulation at all time. It's like, guys, just introduce these characters. You don't need all this extra stuff.
Well, it's not even stimulation, though. It's just like so much exposition that's so unneeded. Like, why do I need to know so much information about these characters?
Anyways, we do. So now what we've learned is she's a college dropout. She now has to work as a bartender. Her sister has trouble, and she has to raise her sister by herself because there's some sort of problem with her dad. Her mom died. She's also dating this professor, and she's pregnant. That's what we've learned so far. And it's been, what, 3-4 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, it's like, I'm only 24, and you look like a 45-year-old man.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, so much stuff happening. And they leave dinner, hop in his car to drive home, and they're immediately hit by a Mack truck that Sarah Corvus is driving.
And I have to say, it's a very good effect. It's mostly practical with some blue screen and stuff on it, or green screen, whatever it is. And an interesting note, I did find like a promo clip for this thing that must have been, as part of their promotion for the show. And it all was about how difficult this stunt was. Like, they really were hinging viewers on, can you believe how exciting and what a big stunt we have on this show? But the unfortunate thing about it is it takes all of 2 seconds?
I mean, yeah, it's a fine stunt. Actually, I honestly think at this point we've seen the getting sideswiped by a car stunt a million times. Like, it's that classic, like, you're looking at a character, seeing out the passenger side window, and then as it's driving, suddenly there's a truck there. Like, I think it is a bit of a cliched shot at this point even, but, like, this is all, like, basically, I think they wanted to get going really quickly. So, like, this is the first 5 minutes. Here's a ton of backstory. Now she's hit by a car. So time to make her a bionic woman.
So, yeah, so they have a car accident. He's in bad shape.
He's fine. He didn't get hurt at all.
You're right. He's actually okay. She's in bad shape. Real bad shape.
All right. What has she lost, Jordan, in this car accident?
She has lost an eyeball.
Yep.
2 legs.
Mm-hmm.
That's both of them. And I think maybe an arm.
Yes,
and
an arm
ear
as well. And her ear.
And an ear? Yeah. And is that it? Oh, and sorry, I should mention, and the baby. I forgot about it. And so I'm watching this, and I thought, guys, why didn't you bionic upgrade the baby? They clearly could have. They just threw it in the dumpster.
I mean, they definitely fix all the other parts on her body.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Put that baby back in, give it super strength.
Grim. That's a real grim of show. But yeah, basically Will has her airlifted directly to Wolf Creek, where I guess he's also he's a professor of ethics during the day, and at night he is the person who installs bionic limbs on people at Wolf Creek.
Didn't you think this was an odd choice and not needed? Like, I couldn't figure out why they had to have... It seems like they crammed two characters together here, and I can't figure out why. Because I think the tension they want is that he's been deceiving her, but that doesn't really work very well in this pilot. And they also, like, again, it gets dropped by the end of the show.
Yeah, I don't know either. To me, it more felt like we have a lot of stuff to do, so it's just the simplest path is to say he works at like, how would he meet her if he worked at Wolf Creek? Oh, he works at this college, though I still don't know how they met.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't think it really worked, and there was at least a moment here of her feeling betrayed, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is very confusing, because, like, he flies her back, immediately starts giving her new arms and legs.
I did like the shot, though, because she sort of wakes up, he's like, you're okay. And then, is it now where I think they sedate her and she wakes up and she looks at her legs and you can, like, they're see-through for some reason?
Yeah, like, they're not exactly like you're thinking. They're not like robotic legs that have been installed in her. They've filled her blood with, I think called them anthrocytes. I think they're basically nanobots. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be building the infrastructure around her limbs.
Right. And so it's kind of a shot where it's like you can kind of see the bone and the musculature. It's all kind of... I guess it's getting built at that moment.
Yeah, because it's got like metal bones and stuff, and it's all so you can see through her legs. And she's like, "Oh, my legs! I can see through them."
Yeah, that's what she says. She's like, "I can't believe this. I'm a bartender. You're a professor, and I've got robotic legs."
But the other part of this too is he's flown her to Wolf Creek to do all the surgery on her after the accident because he's so upset that his girlfriend got hurt. The staff who run Wolf Creek are like just standing watching the surgery, being like, "Who approved this? Why is this happening?"
Well, that's the thing, because, you know, what we'll learn is this is a secret organization, some sort of secret governmental organization, maybe working with the government, maybe kind of not. And they have, I guess, been doing tests on these bionics. But, like, he just picked her and he goes, yeah, she's going to get this. And then eventually everyone's kind of like, all right, seems fine to me.
They just kind of let it happen. And
yeah.
The whole staff just is constantly having this discussion about now that, like, he's installed bionics into her, they're like, well, should we kill her? Or should we make her a candidate?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, well, clearly you should at least try to do something with her. You've put, what do they say? Was it 60 million?
I think it was 5 million.
5 million they put into her. That's a lot of money.
But the staff who work there are Jonas Bledsoe, played by Miguel Ferrer.
Third time we've seen him.
That's right. What are the other two?
Oh, Badlands 2005.
Oh, yeah.
He played the robot.
I forgot about that.
And he played the weatherman in Justice League.
Yes, that's the one I could remember. That's very funny.
Yeah. So he's been in 3 shows now. I think only him and maybe Greg Evigan has been in 3.
I think we've only had 2 Evigans.
Miguel's the leader then. Leader in bad sci-fi shows.
He plays, yes, Jonas, I guess, the boss of Wolf Creek?
Yeah, he's like the big heavy.
And then there's another person who's kind of by his side, Ruth Treadwell.
And I don't know what her character is other than hip haircut.
Yeah, she at some point gives her like a psychological question and answer test, so I thought she was maybe a psychologist who works there, but in the next episode she's a field agent?
They've spent a lot of time trying to create these sort of like backstory points, but then the actual characters, you don't really know what any of them do or how this organization works.
Yeah, and Jay Kim's still there. He's still a trainer of Bionic Women, despite the fact he was dating the last one that went insane, apparently. I don't know. It seems everyone here is unethical.
It seems like that's a secret, right? Like no one was supposed to have known that?
No, they seem to all know it. They seem to all know.
You think so?
Well, someone said, don't play house with this one like you did the last one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I guess that is a problem then. Maybe don't have him be the trainer if he's always into sexy time.
Well, and like old Anthro's down there installing bionic parts into his own girlfriend at this moment.
Yeah.
What I like, there's even a scene where Jonas the boss takes Anthro aside and he's like, you shouldn't be doing this. It's incredibly bad of you to just like take this girl you're dating and throw bionics into her at random just because she got hit by a car. And Anthro like throws it in his face like, you'd do the same thing if you were in my position. And Jonas looks at him. He's like, remember last year when my wife died of cancer and I just didn't do anything about it? He's like, oh yeah, sorry. I guess I forgot about that.
You're like, well, that's an argument one.
It's like so much backstory.
Yeah, just add that to the list.
Anyway, they're all a little pissed off at him for doing this, but they're like, you know what, Anthro, let's give it a try and see what happens. And Anthro's plan is basically he's going to like pretend to break Jamie out of the facility, or like he does, and then he explains to them afterward. He's just like, I'm going to let her go because that'll make her like us more later to be a good bionic woman.
Yeah, but really what it is there's only so much time we can have this character sitting in a cell, so let's have her go run around a BC forest.
Yeah, we get a great scene where she tests out her bionic legs and she is super powered. You get a shot inside of her legs as the pistons start exploding and like the muscles start like contracting, and she can run so fast.
Yeah, she's real fast. But then I think we cut to her then crying in the bathtub though.
Well, you didn't want to talk about when she runs past that classic scene where you run past the car and a little girl sees you running real fast and is like, Mommy, there's a girl outside and she's running real fast.
And she's like, shut up, you little brat.
I know. Her mother literally is just like, what did I say about making up stories, you little liar?
You are going to that boarding school now.
Well, and then they say they up the ante one more because you can't, like, they have this one cliched saying of like, you know, small girl sees superhero running past the car and no one believes them. And what I liked is the Bionic Woman like cuts in front of the car as the mother turns her head in a way that like there's no way that woman wouldn't have seen it happen. But the woman turns her head to look back at her daughter to tell her to stop lying. And the daughter gives her mom a real snotty look and says, oh, well, I just thought it was cool that a girl could do that.
I guess it is.
Like they really like layered the like cliched scenes of like, it's a kid watching a superhero run. Oh, but also is it girl power, a quick girl power moment.
Yeah. And this show has it has that weird thing where they're clearly going like, isn't it cool that there's a female lead and she's like a badass woman and she's getting a fight? But we're also going to make as many cheesecake shots as possible so that the boys can watch.
It is like, and I have no problem with the idea of like bringing a sort of a feminist drive to the show, but everything is handled in this show in the most lazy, heavy-handed way. Like I know their hearts are all in the right place, but they are barely trying.
Yeah.
That kind of thing where the little girl says, "Can you believe a girl can do that?" is like the closest they get to like actually doing what they're trying to.
I think you're right. I think there's an idea that like this concept is so cool. Plus, you guys love the Bionic Woman already. Like this thing writes itself, and it's like, no, it doesn't.
Clearly it doesn't. But yes, we jump forward. She gets back home. We get a montage of her crying in the bathtub.
I think she checks out her bionic boobs too.
I don't know if that's true.
And then I think she Spider-Man's a building. There's a lot of that stuff.
There's a scene, she cries in the bathtub, and then we get her going up to the rooftop to commit suicide.
I wasn't sure if that's what she was doing, or she was just like, I don't know. She just needed a place to think.
She's so upset about these bionic parts we're led to believe that she cries in the bathtub, goes up to the rooftop, and stands on the ledge like she might kill herself. And then as she walks away, she's like, oh, well, why don't I do the Spider-Man jump instead? And then she does like a leap between buildings.
Yeah.
There's not a cliche from a superhero movie they don't want to steal.
Yeah.
And then her little sister comes home and she's pissed off at her because, like, where did you go? I don't believe the cover story Wolf Creek told me about you going skiing.
I like the, like, hey, tell her that you went skiing. And she never says, but I don't ski. Because that's exactly what the sister says. She goes, well, you don't ski. Why would you use that as an excuse?
Like, I know you're lying. You've never gone skiing in your life. And that's the thing is, like, this clandestine organization came up with this cover, did no research.
They could have done anything. Like, I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
And I mean, while all this has been happening, we kind of learned what Sarah Corvus has been up to, sort of. She was supposed to, like, use the mech truck to kill Will Anthros, the professor, I guess, on the order of a character whose only name is The Man.
I didn't even catch that.
They don't say it on the show. I had to look him up because I'm like, no one gave this guy a name. And on IMDb, it's like, he's just credited as The Man.
The Man, huh.
And, like, he's also maybe bionic. Like, when we see him, he's in a hotel room, like, doing huge stitches on his arm, like he's installed something inside of his arm.
I don't know.
And
I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, and like eventually they find out Will didn't die, so he gets pissed off at Sarah Corvus for not doing it. And like he explains this to her by like he leaves the hotel he was in and writing "You failed" on the wall of the hotel. And I'm just like, that's rude to the hotel.
The route to the hotel. I mean, it's also a rude message to leave to someone. Just put it in a nice little note.
But I was also just like, we saw her run this truck off she ran a Mack truck into this guy's car, and we literally saw a shot of her get out and come and look at their bodies. Did she not check? Because Will Anthros is uninjured in this car accident. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why didn't she just kill him?
Yeah, because we need him to die later.
Anyway, We see some more of this character, the man. Apparently, he's fixing to break out Will Anthros' dad, a man named Anthony Anthros, out of a Supermax prison hidden under Florence, California.
There's too much stuff happening in this pilot. Like,
so much stuff.
It's to the point where, and I know that, there was an original pilot and this being recut with some things, but it's almost like a schizophrenic sort of pace because they want this action and these quick cuts, and it's this very early 2000s shaky cam kind of handheld stuff, and it's like I'm feeling like dizzy. There's so much happening.
Yes, Anthony Anthros is played by another Battlestar Galactica actor. They're really kind of leaning into this idea of like, did you like Battlestar Galactica? Because he's there to play the dad, who also not old enough to be Will Anthros' dad.
It's true. There got to be at least a couple years age difference.
I Googled it because I'm just like, this is insane. They're not old enough. And Will Anthros and Anthony Anthros, there's 10 years difference between them.
Right.
And the man wants to break him out. So we see part of his plan, because it's weird, we see part of his plan where he goes to a diner and intimidates a prison guard at this Supermax by holding his wife hostage over the phone. And they get another BSG actor to play prison guard, no name. The guy who played Chief Galen Tyrol on the show. Great actor. Great part on that show. But he's like in it for one scene to be like, oh, you kidnapped my wife.
Yeah. Excellent reading.
And then the show ends and we don't see any of the actual breakout from the Supermax. Suddenly Anthony and the man are just climbing over a mountain together and are like, well, I guess I got you out of that prison.
I kept thinking, like, who are these people? Why do I need to care? It's way too much to put in the pilot.
It is.
All this pilot needed to be was Jamie's journey from a normal woman to having to adjust to having these superpowers now. That's all you needed in the pilot to get people in. But they're just like, we're going to give you everything you possibly could ever need in a series in one episode.
There's 15 characters. We're going to give you backstory and information on all of them. You need to track every piece of it.
Yeah, and it ends up being a just huge muddled mess.
Anyway, let's get back to Jamie Summers for a second. She's just gone back to work at that bar she works at, and Sarah Corvus drops in on her to like have a little chat, I guess, at the bar.
The show doesn't really know how they want their relationship to be. Is it combative? Is it sort of teasing? Is it outwardly aggressive? Because in this scene, they're sort of like, they're just having this weird like verbal tete-a-tete, and I'm like, but didn't she just like drove a car into you?
Also, Sarah Corvus doesn't know who Jamie Summers is. She drove a car into Will Anthros. She's never met or had any. How does she even know what bar to go to, or that this woman's been made bionic? She doesn't have any of that information.
Yeah, she apparently just does know. There was another scene we missed.
What I like too is that when she goes to talk to Jamie, the bartender at the bar, Sarah Corvus is just like, you're too sweet and innocent to work at a bar. And Jamie's like, oh, that's a great compliment. Here's a free beer. And I'm just like, since when is calling someone sweet and innocent a great compliment?
It's just, I don't know. It's so, it doesn't make any sense why she has to work in a bar. There's no reason for it at all. Other than people can come up and talk to her. That's it.
It is just to show what a hard worker she is. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, for whatever reason, at this exact moment, Jamie's bionic ear and eyeball kick in.
Yeah.
And you get classic like Robo Vision where it's scanning the room and looking at stuff, and which, it makes her sick because it's like all for the first time it's sensory overload. So she runs to the bathroom to puke, which is the first of 3 or 4 times she pukes in the next 2 episodes. She's constantly puking.
It's unrelated to the bionics.
But it's true. She pukes here in the bathroom. Next episode, she'll get drunk and puke twice. And then she'll see a dead body next episode and puke again. Like,
that's true.
I'm just like, why
Hey, let's start a
puking?
count now. So 3 times. We'll have to remember 3 pukes.
Sarah Corvus obviously follows her into the bathroom and starts explaining you have to get used to the implants I did. And this is all to be like, oh, surprise, I'm also a bionic woman. And by the way, tell Wolf Creek I said hello.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess it was... The idea behind Sarah Corvus is they think J. Kim shot her in the face and she's been dead and buried for 3 years. So this is all going to be surprise information, I guess, to them. That's the idea behind these tell them hi. But it's also, there's so much coming at you. Like, it's all so much.
And I guess it's just supposed to be written off as a coincidence that she has come back at the same time that they would be able to create another Bionic Woman, because they clearly haven't done that since Sarah.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess they just haven't had another candidate. I don't know. It's all very confusing as to why now, why this. Jamie chases Sarah Corvus in the alley. She's trying to chase her down, but she's gone. Thankfully, though, there's a street thug outside who wants to, I don't know, rob her. He's got a little knife, so we get to watch Jamie's microchips in her brain kick in, and she's like a human weapon who just beats up this man.
Yeah, we're going to find out later. I think they have some sort of line of dialogue that she's also had some sort of programming, so she knows how to fight now, too.
Yeah, well, after this happens, she goes to her professor boyfriend's apartment. He explains, oh yeah, you're kind of a weapon now. The bionic technology is based on my dad, Anthony Andros, who's in Supermax. He built the bionics during the Gulf War for soldiers. So congratulations.
Yeah, she's like, you've made me into a thing. He's like, well, that's a big whoopsie on me. You're now a super soldier.
Yeah, and after that revelation, she's just like, well, let's get sexy.
Yeah, they do.
They have a little sex. And then after sex, he stands up and looks out his window and is shot in the chest by a sniper's bullet.
And it happens really fast. It's hard to properly articulate how manic this episode is. It's literally just like, we're having a fight. Why did you make me a robot? All right, let's have sex. Now assassination. And there's no time to stop at all. It's just...
Not at all.
And none of it's executed well at all.
Yeah, like Jamie gets up and like looks out the bullet hole and her robo eyes pinpoint Sarah Corvus on a rooftop several buildings away with a sniper rifle. So she just runs out of the building, runs across 7 city blocks, climbs another building, and confronts Sarah Corvus.
Yeah, and so this becomes our big action sequence, I should say, in the episode where it's like a Blade Runner-esque rooftop fight with rain pouring down on them, and they get to hit each other and occasionally make pithy comments.
Just a little more exposition. Somehow Sarah Corvus has still been installing more bionics in her. Like, there's just bionics outside of Wolf Creek just laying around you can install in yourself.
Yeah, and they have this big action scene where they fight, and it's all like, you gotta do better than that. Like, oh no, we'll watch this, and blah, blah, blah.
And don't forget, you can smoke as a Bionic Woman now because the nanobots take the toxins out, so you can smoke as much as you want.
It's a fun little bonus.
Get a lot of information in this scene, but, you know, big fight, blah, blah, blah. Finally, a Wolf Creek helicopter interrupts, and Sarah Corvus just runs off.
Yeah, well, she kind of Batmans away.
Classic superhero trope. You got to have it in Bionic Woman.
Yeah, exactly.
And episode kind of ends with them loading Will Anthros onto an ambulance. Jonas the boss shows up and he's just like, "Hey Jamie, are you gonna come work for us? Because I'm like your landlord or something. Because you've got all this bionic tech in you." And Jamie's like, "No, I'm not going to. Still, episode over."
Episode over, and you're just like, what? That's it? That's how the pilot ends? But yeah, that is how it ends.
All right, Jordan. You ready for episode 2?
Yeah, Paradise Lost.
Here's the IMDb summary.
You're either thinking we just saved tens of thousands of people. Isn't that a great feeling? Or you're thinking you knew the world was a scary place, but you didn't know it was this scary. You just want to run off somewhere and hide. Which is it?
Both.
Listen, I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have sent you there. It was too soon.
No, it wasn't. I'm in.
It's good to have you with us, Jamie Soros.
As Jamie slowly adjusts to her new life with her bionic body parts and dealing with the murder of her fiancé Will, she continues to keep the true nature of herself a secret from Becca, who continues to be rebellious and causing trouble at school.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, that went on for like 7 more sentences. I just cut it there.
Yeah, that listening to that was more exciting than watching the episode.
So we start off at the funeral for Will Anthro.
Isn't that hilarious?
I'll be honest, I didn't know he was dead.
Yeah, well, we didn't know he was dead. It's clearly a, what do we do with this character? Oh, it's episode 2. Just get rid of him. He's not working.
I truly feel like between the pilot and going to series, because I know they did a few versions of the pilot, they decided against his character because they just introduced a new supervisor for this episode. I think they just decided, like, we don't like this character. He's dead now.
Yeah, because it seems so jarring to them. There's a couple of things. They take all this time to introduce his character, that he has this relationship with Jamie, this maybe weird sort of push and pull they're going to have with this past relationship, and now it's a working relationship. Then they kill him, and on top of that, her mourning period is maybe half of this episode. Then she's like perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, we go from the funeral. where the Wolf Creek people are still trying to convince her to join Wolf Creek, and she's still saying no, thank you.
Yeah. And so she goes to, I think it's his apartment.
Yep.
And classic, she finds a secret floorboard that's all wobbly.
Immediately steps on the one wobbly floorboard.
Yeah. Yeah, opens it, and what I loved, and I think you mentioned this before when you get to see it, the file and the name of the company and stuff, but this, I love that it just says classified. I'm like, oh, that's something important there. And it's her file that he has for some reason. Like, why would he have that file?
Well, they've been, I guess, tracking her for 2 years, and it's got, like, her IQ report, which is extremely high.
So that's what I didn't understand. So had he already wanted her to be a candidate, and the car smashing her was just a happy accident?
That's what I don't understand either, because this seems to imply they have been tracking her for a while. She was always on the list to be a candidate. But why does Jonas and Treadwell get so upset when he just starts installing, like, they would have known she was, like, it doesn't make sense. Like, they seem surprised in the first episode that he's doing this.
I think there's a disconnect between these two episodes. I think there's a little bit of retconning already. That, like, if you just ignore parts of the first episode, it works. But you're right. Like, from episode 1 to 2, you're like, none of this tracks.
It really doesn't. I was just like, this is countering, or at least, like, I think you could make the mental leaps to be like, no, it makes sense. But it does feel like a rewrite between episode 1 and episode 2 to smooth some things out.
Mm-hmm. We get another superhero trope really quick, though, right after this. She goes to the bar to drink away her sorrows. Trope 1. Trope 2, she's like, I just want to get over my boyfriend, so I'll have sex with the next guy that shows up. And some guy's like, ding, 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 it's me. So they go into the bathroom to, like, hardcore make out. And, of course, she's so strong now, she hurts the guy.
Yeah, she breaks his ribs.
Can you get it? Because she's really strong now. But, like, she doesn't have any other issues with controlling her strength before or after this. But for this comedic scene where she kisses a guy into breaking his rib.
And then the Wolf Creek boss, Jonas, casually walks into the bathroom while this is happening. And he's like, hey, join Wolf Creek, please.
Yeah, and it's like, why is he there? He just needs to be. Oh, I'm going to correct you. He does say she's $50 million is what he's put.
Oh, does he say that? Okay.
Yeah.
I just laughed because I know most people wouldn't have watched these back to back, but, like, episode 1 ends with him asking her to join Wolf Creek. She says no. Episode 2 starts with the funeral with him asking her to join Wolf Creek. She says no. 5 minutes later in episode 2, he walks into a bathroom and says, hey, join Wolf Creek. And she says no.
Yeah, I know. It's like this. Another thing I've said before, I like him as an actor, but man, he's got nothing to work with.
I do like in this scene, though, at least he does say, he's just like, are you sure? We're a clandestine group dedicated to stopping rogue organizations from ending civilization as we know it.
And she's like, nah.
Still no.
Still no.
Anyway, Jamie then gets called to the principal's office because her sister's in trouble for smoking weed in the girls' bathroom.
Yeah, and the scene is to kind of show that she will stick up for her sister, and she, like, goes, please at least let her be in the talent show because it means something to her.
It's crazy. The scene is insane because, first of all, her little sister is not remotely high. If you just got caught smoking weed in the kids' in the girls' bathroom and you were called to the principal's office, you'd be, like, fucked up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's network TV.
But that's it. Like, the principal's like, well, I'm going to have to do something. I could either expel her or, I could not let her perform in the talent show. And they're both immediately like, anything but that.
Yeah.
She needs to be in this talent show. And I was just like, what is going on? Is this an after-school special about talent shows now?
Well, it's because they need that scene, because they need that the scene at the end of the episode where they, like, look at each other and smile, and she's like, you're a really good sister. And without that talent show.
That's the only thing, Joe. Like, this happens, and then they immediately have a fight again about should Becca move in with their dad. Same fight as the last episode.
Yeah.
And they leave it there until the end where they're going to make up when she shows up at that talent show with a bouquet of flowers, and her sister's doing some sort of country western sketch in a cowboy hat.
It is an interesting note, though. It's something you'll see sometimes in not in bad shows, but in shows that have problems with what to do with their characters. And you'll notice that they keep having the same argument over and over, and it hasn't progressed at all. And already with these two characters, this is at least the third or fourth time in so far in 2 episodes where they've had the exact same conversation, and it hasn't progressed in any way. No one's made any additional points. And then they'll be fine. Then they'll go back to the same argument. And it's just like, why? We've already seen this argument 3 times.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm going to leave. No, stay with me. I'm your sister. Okay.
And then they're fine. And then we should have this argument again. It's like, all right, guys,
Anyway,
let's get back to this bionic fighting.
Jamie then goes on a coffee date with her friends, which is so awkward. You know, one of those scenes where you're like, time to meet the characters' friends, but we know they're not real characters. So like two generic actresses walk in, no fault to them, but like are given no chemistry to indicate these two people aren't anything but strangers.
The direction for their characters is, can you please act like women in a commercial for like Diet Crackers or something?
Yeah, and one of them's just like, can you believe it? I got into a good university. And then Jamie's like, I'm leaving. I'm mad at you because your lives are good and mine is bionic. Goodbye.
Yeah, that's basically, it's like, she used to be like this, but now she's like that. You're like, okay, great.
She proceeds to a bookstore to read the book, What Color is Your Parachute?
She's really decided, like, really, here's the thing. She could change nothing in her life. So big deal. She's a little bit stronger. So it doesn't change anything else. What really should be changing her life is that she thought she was having a baby and starting a family with this man who's died. That's a bigger effect on her life. She could still be a bartender with super eye. What does it matter?
Yeah, it's crazy to have introduced a fiance who dies, a lost baby in episode 1, and then episode 2, her biggest problem is just like, my job's not very good.
Yeah. Should I stay a bartender?
At this point, a guy named Antonio pops into the bookstore with his dog to like chat her up and discuss how that book she's reading changed his life.
Oh, can I mention one thing? And this is only interesting to me. The diner she was at with her friends was called Smile Diner.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I don't know. I was like, what? Smile Diner. Anyways, yes. There's so many weird lines of dialogue. He's got a terrier with him. Oh, I can't remember what kind of terrier. And she goes, I had one of those once. I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, even him, he's like, I read that, What Color is Your Parachute? It changed my life. I started a nonprofit providing clean water to third world countries.
Yeah.
And like the whole thing is written a bit as a meet cute or something. Like, we're going to replace Will Anthros with this guy. But then right at the end, she's just like, oh, have I mentioned my boyfriend's dead? And it really just kills the mood.
Yeah, as it does.
And like, this is Isaiah Washington, an actor who like has been around for a while. He's been on like Grey's Anatomy or The 100. So you know this isn't just like some random extra. You're immediately just like, oh, well, this guy's not suspicious at all.
Yeah, it's too much of a scene. They've given way more time to this than they did to the her friends who were, I don't know, getting shakes at the diner.
But anyway, Jamie walks out of the bookstore. Her bionic hearing immediately pinpoints a woman about to jump off a skyscraper roof to commit suicide, almost exactly like she was posed in the last episode.
Yeah, and I don't know what you thought about this effect. Like, it's a difficult thing for shows to do because you have this technology that doesn't quite make sense. So she has super hearing, but how does she pinpoint stuff? Well, they're going to try to do that, visually to try to fill in the blanks there. And whatever, it's a science fiction show, it's fine. But yes, she hears that there's a woman way off that's going to kill herself, so she runs real fast, gets up to the top. I like that she gets up there, the woman's on the edge, and I guess she does jump.
Yes.
And then Jamie catches her and pulls her up, and the woman's like, how'd you get here so fast?
Well, I like too. Like, I think it was something along those lines. It was like she pulled her up and she's like, wow, you're so strong.
Yeah, I know. It was just like the whole point was not thank you for saving me or I'm so upset and nothing's changed. It's like, I'm very impressed with your amazing abilities.
Yeah, like Jamie hasn't helped this woman who has some sort of depression, some sort of problem in her life that's causing her to commit suicide. She literally just grabs her, pulls her back, and just like, you're so strong. That's cool. Thanks. I don't want to kill myself.
There should have been like a Naked Gun-esque sort of joke after. Like, she's like, well, solve the day. And then you see her walking in the background. The woman just falls off the building again.
Well, and this is truly the only reason this scene happens is she prevents a woman from committing suicide, sort of. And then she's just like, you know what? I do want to be a superhero. And she just goes to Wolf Creek to be a candidate.
They spend so much time in all these other scenes and adding backstory and these other kind of non-conflict scenes. And then the whole point of her trying to decide, like, they've already set up all the conflict you need of her being betrayed by her fiance and then this horrible thing of losing her baby and losing him. There's all these conflicts, but then you're just like, let's just add another thing. And she's like, yeah, I guess I could be a superhero. It's like, but why? Why did you need any of this? You had all this time to develop some sort of inner dialogue for her or motivation.
It's rule of 3, Jordan. She said no 3 times, and now she has to say yes.
I guess. Yeah, and also, she knows exactly how to get back there, too.
I know. She goes
To
right
the
back to
secret
Wolf
place.
Creek. There is no security. She not only walks into Wolf Creek, she walks directly into Jonas's office.
Yeah.
Unannounced.
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, I guess I'm in. And he's like, well, you've convinced me.
Well, that's it. She walks in. She's like, I'm in, but here are my rules. I work 9 to 5, no weekends, and I get health care.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Anyways, it's like she's playing a hard bargain. But again, it's like, they're the ones that have all the power, right?
I think that's just played for laughs. And also, I like she walks in on a conversation. Jonas is on the phone with his daughter, and she wants to get on the pill, but he doesn't want her to. And the conversation ends, and she's just walked. Jamie's just barged into his office, and he's just like, "Hey, Jamie, thanks for dropping by. I didn't know you were coming, but can you answer this question for me? Do you think a 16-year-old girl should be on the pill?" And Jamie's just like, I don't know, is she sexually active? And he's just like, I don't want her on the pill. And they just leave it at that.
I know, it's good. No one stopped and said, is this progressing the plot or building a character or doing anything? And they're like, no, it's just filling time. It's like these poor actors, there's nothing to work with.
I was just like, even if you're trying to use this to build like a theme of like female empowerment, you don't even do that, because what happens here is the dad just decides at the end of the scene, no, she should not be on the pill. And Jamie doesn't even bother sticking up for this girl.
Yeah, she's like, well, more about me. I only work till 5.
Anyway, so she's on the team now. He's just like, well, as long as you're here in my office volunteering, why don't I introduce you to your supervisor? And that Antonio character just happens to also walk into his office at that exact same time. It's like, hey, it's me. You met me in the bookstore. I'm actually a Wolf Creek guy.
I guess the point of that was that she's like, so you don't have a dog and you weren't doing that thing? He's like, nope, I was tricking you. But she doesn't go, oh, so this whole thing's a manipulation. Forget this then. It's like, oh, I guess that's cool.
Well, yeah, he's just like, I was just checking you out to make sure you weren't compromised by another agency. And I was just like, did you figure anything out?
Yeah, nothing. You figured nothing out. You suggested a book for her to buy.
Also, I was just like, Jamie, aren't you questioning the suicide you just stopped now too? Like, this all seems like a plan.
Yeah, that was just another lady that works there. It's like, oh yeah, that's our secretary.
And then from that, we go into a comedy scene where her bionic ear has been ringing all day. So a technician's just like looking at her and he's like, could be that loose wire, could be a brain aneurysm. I don't know.
Yeah, and is he supposed to be their Q? Like, do you think this guy's going to come back in later episodes?
Yeah, I recognize him as a character actor, so I think he will. And he solves the problem by slapping her upside the head and the ringing stops.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And then the scene ends with she's just like, well, if you want to thank me, how about you give me a hug? And it's like,
Yeah.
so weird, because it's supposed to, I think it's intended to be like, isn't it funny this guy's a sexual predator at the office?
Yeah.
Because
I thought it was funny.
Jamie like sort of rebukes him, but it's like this show is crazy.
It is funny though, even a show from how long ago is this? Now about 13 years. How much the tone of these sort of things has adjusted. Like, it's just one of those scenes where it's like it's on the line of like, this is kind of gross, and there's no way this would be in TV now.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is tone deaf for its time. I think 2007,
Do you think so?
You were already on a path to be like, we got to like fix some of this stuff up, particularly on a show that is clearly positioning itself as heavily female empowerment driven. Like, that's clearly what they want to be, but they're still, you're right, doing cheesecake shots and like having a funny creep at the, this tech is clearly intended to be comic relief at the office permanently.
Yeah, but I think you make an interesting point. I do think their intention is a female-led action, rah-rah, women can be in charge and are just as strong as men. Great. But they make no effort at all past the point of saying it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like...
Yeah, exactly.
If you watch the show, you're like, oh, this is clear. They also need her to be hot. Like, every shot. It's like, she has to be hot. Sorry, guys.
Well, I mean, we literally do a training montage now where J. Kim comes back in to train her, and it's a montage of her doing one-arm pull-ups and running and fighting. And the one-arm pull-ups are shot with her in a very low-cut top, just down her cleavage.
Yeah, that's the shot you need.
It's crazy. So yeah, she does this training montage. They explain what all her powers are here. She can run 60 miles an hour. She can shatter a brick. She has 2020. She has 2020 vision.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And she can hear 2 miles away.
Yeah.
But
Which is good, I guess.
But Jordan, if she doesn't hone these skills, she will go totally insane.
That's right. They said because there's something, it's called DMC 30. Is that what they said?
No, that's unrelated.
Oh, that's unrelated. Oh, right. That's the other thing. I forgot. There's an actual plot to this show that we haven't got to yet.
Well, let's get into it now. Like, that's what we're hitting now is like throughout this entire episode, like this has been going on for what, maybe like 20, 25 minutes at this point, this episode. Throughout the entire episode, there have just been like every scene starts with a newscast in the background on like TV screens talking about how the town of Paradise, Idaho has been mysteriously quarantined for some reason.
And then, we finally get into the plot that something has happened, and essentially the entire town has been killed.
Yes, Wolf Creek has managed to get surveillance footage from before the military locked down the town, and everyone dropped dead. So Ruth Treadwell, the maybe psychologist, really wants Jonah to let her go check it out. And because Jamie's been training at the facility, she's able to like eavesdrop on their conversation through the soundproof walls, and then knocks on the door and says, "Me too, I'll go too."
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, checks out. Sounds good to us.
Sure, let's jump in Treadwell's cool 72 GTO and drive out to Idaho.
Yeah, that was weird. I guess that's like a character point, but it was like, that doesn't seem like a good office regulation car.
And it's so crazy because we are now more than halfway through the episode, and we are basically starting a different episode's plot.
Yeah, this is now going to be the, like, for lack of a better term, sort of like Crisis of the Week or Monster of the Week, but they're starting it halfway through because we needed to have all this other stuff that didn't need to be.
It's like they never finished the pilot of her deciding to become the Bionic Woman, so they're like, oh, well, I guess we better do a half of a pilot where she says yes to being the Bionic Woman.
Yeah, exactly.
What I did enjoy here, Jordan, though, is as they pull up to the military blockade around the town, they do a real classic Threshold trick here. Remember Threshold?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're like, who are you with? And what does she say? Like the Department of the Interior or something like that?
She's got a badge from the Department of Agriculture, a fake one to get her in. And
that's right.
I was first of all, I'm like, does the Department of Agriculture have badges they hand out?
Or do they have agents that go around? I guess so.
And it's great, too, because the military guy's like, okay, thank you for your identification, but like, who's this woman who's in the car with you? And she's just like, she's my muscle, don't worry about it. And the soldiers in the hazmat suits like, okay, I guess, let's let her through.
Now, if you're someone, let's say you're the Bionic Woman, and this is your first trip into, going on, out into the field. If I'm going up to a town and the guy checking us in is wearing an entire biohazard suit, I'd be like, do we have one in the trunk? I think I should probably be wearing that.
Well, as you know, you can smoke cigarettes, Jordan, so obviously you can inhale toxins.
Yeah, but old haircut lady can't.
Yeah, no one likes her, though.
Okay.
That's why Jonas let her go. You're like, I hope you die on this mission.
Yeah, I hope you die just breathing in your DMC 30.
Well, that's what happens is they get there, Treadwell goes and looks at some of the dead bodies, and she immediately knows what's killed them. It's DML-30, a synthetic airborne biological weapon that Wolf Creek made.
In terms of a story, why would you have added that? Why did they have to be why couldn't they have had that a terrorist organization? Why would the organization who's supposed to be the good guys have created the virus or whatever it is?
It's twofold. Like, one, to show that they're like semi-unethical military contractors. And then two, you've saved an entire plot for the last 20 minutes of the show, and you just don't have time. Like, you don't have time to have anyone do tests or figure out what this disease is. They just have to know what it is.
Right. That makes sense. Right. It's more of a time-saving exercise.
But there's a big question of them like, okay, so you created this. How do you not know who has it?
Yeah, but it is some sort of other military organization for some reason.
I'm not even sure either, because basically it's only lethal for 12 hours. She knows this because they built it. So they're like, great, let's just go into town. And you get a scene where they're wandering from house to house in town. Battlestar Galactica is playing on all the TVs.
Is that right? I didn't notice that.
Did you not notice? There's literally a shot. It like starts on a shot of the camera's on a TV showing an episode of Battlestar Galactica, and the camera like pans up to watch them walk through the house.
That's funny.
If you didn't know, the people behind Battlestar Galactica made this show.
Maybe they were just hoping, guys, we know this is bad. We know this is bad. But just remember, we did Battlestar Galactica.
It feels, honestly, at this point, it feels a little bit that way.
Yeah.
As they're wandering through the houses, Jamie, of course, hears that there's someone alive a few houses away in a basement. They go down there. There's a teen girl brushing her teeth. She's the only one alive. she hasn't even noticed anyone in town is dead yet.
Which made no sense. The timeline makes no sense.
The timeline of this episode is insane. It feels like at least a day has gone by, or bare minimum, like 18 hours. So this teenage girl has basically slept she's getting up at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, or she somehow has spent the last, 8 hours wandering around her house, not noticing that her grandparents that she says she lives with are dead.
Yeah, it's insane. And I guess there's some implication that maybe this girl is immune to the thing, but they're like, oh, well, like it's not a plot point. At some point, they just let her leave. They're like, I don't know, I guess maybe she's immune. Maybe that's how she survives. Who cares?
It's not what's important to the writers of this episode. It's just something to get Jamie in the field. The details and how it works and the implications, don't worry about it. It's more just, let's just see what she can do.
Well, that's it. The only reason the teenage girl there is like for 2 reasons, actually. She's one there to say last night she saw one of those gas trucks that sprays gas everywhere driving around the town. You know the ones.
Well, it's even funnier than that, though. They go, hey, you're the only one that survived. Have you seen anything weird or strange that's happened? She's like, I did notice there was a truck driving around. I was like, what? Like, why would you have noticed that?
Well, I think she even calls it a gas truck. Like, I'm just like, what's a gas truck?
That's why it was so odd.
Anyway, for some reason, at this exact moment, the Treadwell character is just like, all right, well, I have to leave now to, I guess, make a phone call. So I'm going to leave you, Jamie, and teen girl to wander around the dead town at random for a few scenes. Goodbye. And in that time, another evil clandestine organization disguised as the military kills everyone at a blockade off camera. We just hear about it on a radio. Drives into town for reasons that are not clear. But they drive in and they immediately see Jamie and this teen girl. And they're like, oh, hey, that teen girl survived. We should kill her. And I'm just like, you didn't know that teen girl was here, first of all. You're seeing Jamie also. Why wouldn't you think she also survived? Like, none of it makes any sense. But they show up and they're like, gotta kill these people.
And then Jamie's like, she can tell they're bad because she uses her super eye to see that their eyes are dilating when they're lying, I guess. And then she's like, run away. The girl runs. They start shooting. They both hide. And then you get like I
love that hiding sequence because they're hiding in a hardware store. And you can clearly see the soldiers just outside the hardware store walking by. They are talking at full volume. Jamie's taking phone calls from her sister. I'm just like, You're not, like, they can hear what you're saying. They can hear you.
But it doesn't matter because as soon as they come into the store, Jamie fights them and she's like, she just beats them all up.
Yeah, she beats one guy up who comes in the store. They're safe for a second. Treadwell walks through the front door of the store. Who knows where she walked off to, but she just returns. Like, this character who walked off 2 seconds ago just walks back in the store. She's like, oh no, are there bad guys here? Let me make this grenade into a homemade improvised explosive device and we'll kill some of them.
Yeah, that's right. She makes like essentially like a bomb, like a sensor bomb. And then they just like, as a viewer, you're like, they just killed all these people. I don't know anything about them. She just like killed like 10 of them.
Yeah. And then they run out the back of the store as it explodes. And who's outside but Antonio from Wolf Creek with a whole squad of heavily armed men. They're like, hey, we're here now. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and they're like, we're saved the day. I'm like, did you? Why are you here? What is happening?
They like shoot a couple of the last remaining like evil soldiers and then capture one of them so they can interrogate him. And the interrogation is all off screen, but he's just, they're like, well, when we interrogated him, we found out that the poisoning of the town was a test run.
And this reminded me of an Invasion America sort of thing. It's like, hey, this little, stepping block here. It's like, guess what? There's going to be the same thing, but much bigger later.
No,
Stay tuned.
That's not true, though. That's not for a later episode. It's for this episode because they're going to send 20,
that's right.
20 more trucks out at midnight tonight. And he told me exactly the truck depot they're all coming out of. They torture this guy. He's just like, tells them all the information. And like, why do they need a test run? I have no idea. Here's where they are. They immediately just go to this truck depot. Easily, like, there's no resistance. They catch all the evil bad guys at this truck depot.
Well, it's funny because there was no reason for the second part, and there's no time left in the episode. So they're just like, yeah, there's another attack. Anyways, we solved it.
And it's very funny. They go in, they're like, look at this map of all the places they're going to go to. Springfield, Jackson, Mobile, Portland, Spokane, Olympia. And I was just like, thank you for listing those names, first of all. And second of all, how are they going to drive to all those places in one night?
And why are those the places they're going to hit? Just because.
Just because. That's why they did the test run. And anyway, the whole thing is just so Jamie's so excited that she saved the world. And I'm just like, what is happening?
And she's like, I just don't know how I feel about things, but I want to help. And he's like, is it because you didn't know how bad the world is? And she's like, maybe. It's just, and then this whole thing is just so she get to the talent show that we mentioned in the first half of the episode.
Anyway, I would say that's where the episode wraps up, but I just need to go back to one thing that I had to pull out of the episode because I didn't know how to fit into my notes. There is a subplot where the trainer Jay Kim gets a love letter from Sarah Corvus at work.
Oh, that's right.
Anyone can walk into Wolf Creek and leave anything, even a long dead bionic woman. He goes to meet her at a hotel because he can't believe she's still alive. The hotel that he used to go to her with her as his wife. And they proceed to have sex in front of a fireplace. And then she explains to him, I don't know if I went crazy. I think somebody hacked me. That's it.
Yeah.
That's a whole subplot.
Yeah. And my question, though, was, did they have sex in the bed and then move to the fireplace, or did they have sex in front of the fireplace?
I am not sure because because the show is so crazy, when he walks into that hotel room, they want you to be like, oh, he's been here before. So they like have a quick flashback scene of the two of them having sex in front of the fireplace. And then you pull out of that flashback and he sees her and he's like, oh my God, you're alive. But then when you cut back to the hotel after they've had sex, they're laying in front of the fireplace. So I think clearly they shot a sex scene and then realized they needed some like flashback material. So they just used the stuff they shot for that scene to be a flashback.
Yeah. Anyways, that's that plot.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. We get into some final notes then. One thing I wanted to mention is the opening title sequence is perfect for this show because it is as boring as the show itself.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's bad.
It's just like frosted glass with a shadow behind it, like trapped behind it, like banging on the glass. Like, I'm trapped behind this frosted glass. And then at the end of it, the Bionic Woman just smashes the glass with her fist. And she's like, I'm free. I'm the Bionic Woman.
Yeah. She broke through that glass ceiling.
It's the least exciting opening I could imagine for the show.
Yeah.
Now, Jordan, this pilot that we watched was like a second... Like they had an original pilot, they recut, and then I think they recut a third time into the one we saw here. But you had some information about the original pilot for us.
Well, there's one major thing a couple things that I remember watching this. One is that I don't remember the pilot being nearly as manic as the one we watched. It's, at least from my perspective, something that looks like it's been recut a million times. There's way too much information. There's clearly actors that they don't want in it anymore. It looks like other stuff's being shot and inserted. But the one major thing that I remembered, and that's why I went and looked it up, because I was like, I know this is different, is that they recast the sister. In the pilot we watched, they have the sister that's now going to be the sister in the series has been reshot and put in the pilot, because in the pilot I watched, it's a different actress and she's deaf. And there's this whole plot line about having to deal with her sister and take care of her sister who can't hear. And I think there was some sort of connection with that she has a bionic ear now and this whole thing. But I that's something that stood out that was different.
Right. I had read a little bit about this. That originally it was a deaf sister with a different actress. And basically some groups were like, if you're gonna do a whole thing with a deaf sister, why didn't you cast a deaf actress? And like they were just kind of like, this is tone deaf. Much like the show itself, just tone deaf all over the place. So they just decided to like recast and rewrite that character.
I think probably what's happened is there's a little bit of this, the relationship of the two and their also the relationship with their dad. I think these are holdovers from when the character was written in that style. And so now it doesn't quite jive. Not that I think it was amazing before, but I think what you have is a little bit of a Frankenstein effect here.
Right. So you're not saying the one you watched the pilot you watched in 2007 when you watched the original unaired pilot is better than this one?
Oh, I think it's marginally better. At least it's, I think, a little bit more coherent. But I think probably what happened was, like you're saying, there was a couple of these changes made for whatever reason. And I think also they probably were like, hey, we want all these other things to happen later on. So it probably didn't work as well with, these amazing themes that they want to develop as we go.
Jordan, there's also a little treat here for you. There's a continuing drag alumni director for the second episode.
Oh, yeah? Is it, I'm going to guess it's someone from Threshold.
You are dead on the money again, my friend.
Yeah.
It is character actor Tim Matheson.
Who's Tim Matheson?
He's in, you'll recognize if you saw him. He's in like Animal House. He's in like hundreds of movies. He's a real character actor. Very like, he'd play like a dean or a stuffed shirt.
Right.
But yes, he also did an episode of Threshold called Shock.
And I have a feeling, as we've watched these first 2 episodes, and I know we're wrapping this up now, that this is going to be similar to Threshold in the style and tone of the show. I mean, I think Threshold, weirdly, is probably going to be a better show than this, but I think there's going to be some similarities between the two.
I mean, given how the second half of the second episode restructured itself very abruptly, it did become like case of the week suddenly. And it feels like maybe that's now the new intention. It's like every week there's going to be a new threat to the world and we're going to take it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jordan, what do you want to rate the first episode pilot?
I'm going to be a little bit forgiving because I think it did go through a long gestation period and a lot of edits. And just so we have somewhere to go, I'm going to give it a very, very forgiving 4 out of 10, which I think is generous.
That is very generous.
It's bad.
I stared long and hard at that warp drive, Jordan, because I was like, this is a terrible show, badly executed on like all fronts. It's just like, it's clearly unfortunate. There's no way anyone working on it didn't realize it. Like, this is quite clearly a sinking ship from day one, and like that second episode is not helping it. I'm giving the first episode a 3.
Yeah. Well, on that, going into episode 2 then, what do you think for episode 2?
I'm going to give it a 2 because it's just like an extension of the pilot and then a rush job episode in the second half. It's not like none of this is good.
Yeah, I thought the same. I'm going to give it a 3, so we've both gone down 1 point. I thought the second episode was going to be much better because I was like, all right, it's the pilot. It went through a bunch of different forms and they had to, it's a little sketchy. They'll hit their strides in episode 2, and they definitely did not. If anything, this was a worse episode than the pilot.
It is funny. Like, that's the thing, either the pilots can be the case where they're like, they have to do a lot, so they're a little bit worse, or like, there's lots of setups to do. But after watching the second episode, I'm like, oh, well, that pilot's a perfect example of what the rest of the show is going to be. Just a hot mess.
It's almost like you want them to either go, we know this is bad, let's play up fun elements at least. But I have a feeling this show's too dour and too serious for its own good, and it's just going to be just dumb.
Truly, that is, I think, its biggest problem. It's just like, it's too silly a concept, and they're taking it way too seriously. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it's a Bionic Woman.
It should not be this serious. All right, Jordan. Well, we are doing a little promo swap with another podcast. So after this episode, if you stick around, you'll be able to hear a little promo for this short and spooky podcast, and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. But they, much like our podcast, watch old TV shows, but they watch horror anthology TV shows. So Freddy's Nightmare, The Twilight Zone, that kind of stuff. So stick around to the end of the episode. The host of that will tell you a little bit about it themselves. And if you want to reach out to us, you can get us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. And, of course, on Instagram and Twitter, we're going to have some clips from this show. Bionic legs, bionic vision, bionic stuff.
Saving suicides.
You're so strong. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at continuumdrag to see that. And that wraps it up. So, listener, thank you for joining us. And, Jordan, I'll see you next week.
See you then. Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rex Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, John.
Do you like listening to podcasts?
I love it.
Do you like watching spooky stuff?
Oh, great. Yeah, I love it.
Are you still obsessed with the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, to this day.
Cool. So am I. If you are, then you'll probably like our podcast called Short and Spooky.
What's it about?
It's all about anthology shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Tales from the Crypt, Freddy's Nightmares.
What's an anthology show mean?
It's like a standalone, so you don't have to keep up with any plots or characters or anything.
So you can just tune in. Say you're a new listener, you can just tune into an episode and not have to worry about missing out on something you didn't hear before.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Check it out.